What is up, Steeler fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White. And it sure feels like a lot happened today, but when you look at it, as far as the Steelers go, I'm not so sure. How are you doing today on the first day of free agency frenzy?
Underwhelmed.
yeah, that's a good way to describe. I think there was a lot of to be expected today. And I think that since not really much anything happened, especially in one particular position, it feels like it's been a disappointing day. At least that's the way I feel about it. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, to me, they wasted the opportunity to get Fields in because, according to the speculation from some of the insiders, that he wanted to be pole position one. He wanted to be guaranteed to be quarterback one.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know who you're going to bring in that you would say, well, this guy's going to be above him, but maybe he was worried they would draft somebody. I don't know. But anyway, the offer supposedly was 2 years, 30 million, 20 guaranteed. So the Jets offer 2 years, 40 million, 30 guaranteed. So it's 10 million more a year. It's 10 million more guaranteed. And so he goes to the Jets. That's the only guy on the market that had the right age and have any chance to be long term.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, like, I didn't really want Sam Darnold, but when you put the amount of money they put in getting DK Metcalf,
mm-hmm.
and I'm all for DK Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf. But he can be a problem if you don't have a quarterback capable of getting him the ball.
Yeah.
And why do you put that big a salary if you're not going to have a quarterback who can get him the ball? And the Steelers signed him with no quarterback at all. I think they were hoping it would make them more attractive to have him and George Pickens and maybe one of these quarterbacks that want to come there, maybe for a little less money. Well, it didn't work. Somebody said, are they playing chess? I said, well, they're trying to play chess, but they're not any good at it because they did this last offseason with the wide receiver and they never did get one.
Yeah.
Now we're at the quarterback. Who's left? You've got an old, washed up Aaron Rodgers that will bring drama regardless. And I've never considered him to be a great winner. Now, he can distribute the ball. And if they keep Pickett, which at this point makes sense, because you're going to have to give as much talent to whoever the quarterback is, then, let him distribute the ball and keep your explosive weapons. But we know that Aaron is not a proven winner, and he is a very, I will say, quirky personality.
All right.
So I don't know if he, I don't know who else they're going to bring in. I'll give in a minute. I'm what's your opinion, and then I'll give what I would do in this situation, and we'll see what you would do.
Okay. Yeah. No, and everything you're saying right there kind of reminds me of what I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing. And I recently saw this, right? I was looking through Facebook Marketplace and I was looking at a couple of vehicles that were for sale. And there was one that was called a mechanic special. And what it was a deal. It was a great car, but something internally was wrong with the engine that a mechanic could fix. That, hey, if you're a mechanic, you got a great deal. And I kind of feel like this is that version. This is a mechanic special. You have all the pieces around it, and we're looking for a quarterback that's willing to play for a prove-it deal, a quarterback that's going to play for a small amount of money for a short amount of time, that is looking for the upside, saying, hey, if I go to this team and I can excel with these players in these positions, that's going to give me an opportunity to get a bigger paycheck later. So a bet on myself kind of deal. That is exactly what this entire scenario reminds me, but, and I'll be honest with you, I never thought, or let me put it this way. I thought since the end of free agency, I didn't think that the end of the season, I didn't think the Steelers were that invested into Justin Fields as being their starting quarterback. I just never thought they treated him as that guy. And I think pay is a big part of that. Now, I know you mentioned that the Jets paid him $10 million more, but this is for a starting quarterback. wouldn't you expect a team to pay at the very least tie or the very minimum of what a starting quarterback is being paid? Wouldn't you offer the very minimum at the very least of what a starting quarterback is getting paid that is not on a rookie deal? Wouldn't you think that would you think that would have been fair?
This kind of goes back to what you said about you didn't think they thought he was the long-term answer.
Oh,
that they never viewed him that way.
No.
Regardless of what any of the rest of us think, they just never viewed him that way. To me, offering him, because we had a discussion on Pump Your Brakes the last couple of shows about, I thought he would get a $20 million a year offer. And Big G thought he'd get 25. And I'm like, well, no, 20 is even stretching it a little bit based on what he's done. We're actually paying for potential, what he can become. He's a better athlete and everything than anybody in this draft.
Well, I mean, I want to interject real quick because it's not so much about potential, but you're also going to be paying him for what he's going to do. He's going to be the starting quarterback, isn't he not? I mean, the deal was he wanted to have the pole position as well. He wanted to be the starter. So it's not just, all right, we're going to pay you $10 million, backup money. He wanted the pay as well that goes along with it. It's not just he's not just going to be battling it. I mean, he's going to be battling it out there, but he's expecting to be the starter. So at the very minimum, starter pay. Wouldn't you expect that?
Well, see, I think, but that's what I'm saying. I think $20 million a year is starter money for unproven. And that's what I thought he'd get, and that's what he got. He just didn't get it from the Steelers.
Right.
Because so then, I don't think the Steelers viewed him that way.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to say. The Steelers don't view him that way.
You
lowest
said that
paid.
Now, I disagreed.
Right.
I mean, I thought all along that they seen. I mean, because here's the thing. We said before, to find a franchise quarterback, hardest thing to do. You got to throw tons of darts at the dartboard and hope you hit on one. And then, because if not, you're going to invest your future in a guy, and then you really got to be sure. There's nobody in this draft that you can be sure about. There's nobody left out there that you're sure of. So in this situation this year, whether it's a bridge guy, whatever, I thought they would pay him $20 million to make sure they had a quarterback with starting experience that wasn't decrepit.
Right. Well, and I think that $20 million is a good starting point. But let me just kind of put something in reference. When you look at what starting quarterbacks are getting paid, Geno Smith, outside of Justin Fields, who is now the lowest projected starting quarterback in the NFL that's not on a rookie deal. Geno Smith is getting paid $25 million a year. Baker Mayfield is the next quarterback that's on the low end, and he's at $33 million a year. That's the market. It's not so much what it is, should they be worth this or that. That is what the NFL perceives all NFL starting quarterbacks to be at it around. I mean, that's the bottom barrel.
But Geno has been to the Pro Bowl. Baker Mayfield has been to the Pro Bowl. I think both guys have won a playoff game. All these are things that Justin Fields has not done.
Right.
So that's why I thought he would come in under that $25 million. And that's why I would say a 20. Because, again, you're trying to do it's still a proven situation. Because if he come out and he sucked this year, the Steelers would be back in the hunt next year when there's a better quarterback draft and there might be some free agency options or trade options. Right. But again, we'll get to that in a little bit. But I just think that they're messing around, and like if they're going to end up with this year, you're going to have somebody back there, even though you brought in DK Metcalf, paying the most you've ever paid a skill position guy. And you're going to have to keep Pickett, I think, now. And you're going to have to draft a wide receiver. And you're going to have to get a running back. And you're sitting on all this money, and you let the first day go by, and you really don't spend any of it. Now, that is classic Steelers.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it speaks of, I don't want to say cheap, because this cheap team went out there and paid $150 million to DK Metcalf for the next 5 years. for wide receiver number one. If anybody has any question who's wide receiver number one, it's the guy getting paid $150 million.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Pickens is now wide receiver number two. If he still is on the team come week one, which I'll be honest, I really, really do hope so. I'm hoping that, maybe this humbles him a little bit. This gets him a step back saying, hey, you know what? Not only am I putting myself in this position that I'm not in wide receiver number one, but that I see that this team was willing to pay X amount. I see other teams that are paying X amount. If he goes out there and balls like a T. Higgins, so to speak, T. Higgins is a wealthy man. I mean, he's getting franchise tag. That's a tremendous amount of money that is coming through. Something happened.
I turned my phone off.
Oh,
somebody
I thought we signed somebody.
It was annoying, and I'm gonna get that crap because I've been getting it all day. So I turned it off.
No problem. Oh man. Well, James Daniels did sign to the Dolphins, so there's an option that the Steelers could have had that a lot of people were thinking about, maybe perhaps returning.
$8 million a year.
Yeah, isn't that what he was signed at before?
Yeah, I mean, he would have been more if it wasn't for the Achilles injury.
Right.
Because you've seen what Moore got.
Yeah.
That's Dan insane. Moore. I'm so happy. One, it helps with the compensation, picks, but I'm just so glad he's gone because it's better for him and for the Steelers.
Yeah. Maybe a change of scenery would do good for him. But, just kind of going back to what we were speaking about earlier with Justin Fields, the further we got along in the offseason and the closer we got to free agency, the longer the chances I thought that the Steelers were going to get to keep him. And there was other reasons behind it. I think there was some lack of trust. I think it was Aditi who had reported that there was a little bit of a distrust there because at the end of the season, there may have been some people in the building who may have wanted to go back to Justin Fields. Mike Tomlin vetoed that. He's still there. He's the one calling the shots.
Would you trust him?
I don't think
I would.
I mean, look at the history. Look at the history.
Look at last year. Look at the year before. I wouldn't.
Especially in that position. I mean, outside of Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Tomlin's not he's very quick. Let me put the phrases. He's very quick to turn the card around or whatever you want to call it, to flip it around to go to another direction. Very quickly. I mean, back to Mason, to Duck, to all these quarterbacks in between. And now the question is who has left. And I think everybody's been kind of questioning, is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be Russell Wilson? Aaron Rodgers was apparently talking with the organization earlier today. There was some reports that it seems like there's a deal maybe coming, maybe not coming, insiders deleting and creating tweets and then deleting them. So much mystery. At this point, who would you rather have, Rodgers or Russ?
Okay, again, I have an idea of what I want to do.
Okay, yeah.
For now, to answer that question, I would actually rather have Russell Wilson than I would Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want either one of them. Because with Aaron Rodgers, here's what can happen. The guy can still sling the ball, no doubt.
Yeah.
And if you give him Metcalf and Pickens, give him another receiver, you have Roman Wilson, give him a good running game. The line should be better this year if healthy. I mean, I can see them winning some games, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can see it for 1 year. But again, what I really see is the drama. And I see problems. I can't help it because that's who Aaron Rodgers is. Yeah. Listen, I've watched Big Ben for many, many years, and that dude's a winner.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's all hard. He was out there. We know what he played through and what he went through and some of the lines he played behind and what he did to win games. That is not Aaron Rodgers. And if Aaron Rodgers don't get the support that he thinks he deserves, he's going to blame people. It can be coaches. It can be the other players on the team. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
And I'd really, I think if you give Russell Wilson a better line, you give him a better running game and the improvement on the outside, he could do a better job than what he did towards the end of last year.
Mm-hmm. I don't,
But that's
I
not
gotta
my
disagree. I gotta disagree with it between the two, and the reason being is I think that Russell Wilson is limited in what he can do. As far as he doesn't throw over the middle of the field because of his height, that's not something that you can change. And he holds onto the ball quite a bit. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, what I like about him is the fact that he'll throw over the middle of the field. He'll also get rid of the ball fairly quickly. So even if you're having some problems with your line, he can get rid of the ball quick. The other thing I like is the fact that he's not going to be one of these guys that is going to, if there's some sort of, like for instance, the Russell Wilson game versus the Cincinnati Bengals, where he goes off, and then the reports are that, they're telling him to not change the plays, not do that, not to trust what he sees. I think that when you have an Aaron Rodgers in the building, that he's going to be able to take command. He's not going to take the George Pickens nonsense, the effort and all that other stuff. I think he's going to put people in their place when it comes to those type of things. And I just don't see that Russell Wilson is that kind of guy that's going to be willing to get in somebody's face and tell them something to the nature of what they need to hear and what they need to do.
Well, I know what you're saying, and I don't want to disagree back, but Aaron Rodgers on the field and in practice was arguing with Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Garrett Wilson, by all intents and purposes, everything I've ever heard from anybody, is an outstanding, upstanding young man, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't get along with him. Give him George Pickens. Give him DK Metcalf, who would jerk a knot in his rear end if he gets in his face. I'm just telling you, Metcalf don't play. I'd see a problem. I do not think that Aaron Rodgers is the answer in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But I'll let you finish your thought, and then we need to figure out what is a plan moving forward.
Right. And I do want to also preference this, that this is also not the option that I want to go with. Mm-hmm. This is, I think the Steelers are going to end up, for me, with what is left over, I don't even know, man. I mean, I wasn't really confident either with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson beforehand. I'm thinking that this is gonna be a huge question mark. And I know they threw their hands in the Sam or supposedly threw out there that they were going to send an offer to Sam Darnold. I wonder if it was similar to what they sent to Justin Fields. If it was, he probably
got $33.5 million a year.
Yeah.
And I don't think Steelers were going to go after that.
Yeah, no way. And so, with Rodgers, I just think that he's going to be able to throw the ball over the field, and I think they're going to trust him a little bit more as far as what he sees and what the defense is giving him versus perhaps what these recent quarterbacks have had to deal with, because that's been the constant issue, is the fact that the offensive coordinator doesn't allow the quarterback to trust his eyes, doesn't allow the quarterback to change the play. They're stuck doing run, pass, punt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think that maybe with Aaron Rodgers, you may not have that aspect. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, now, what I would like to see happen is there is some trade options out there. Now, I don't know what it would cost. They're going to have to beat the bushes, kind of similar to last year, and see what they can drum up. I would like to see, as I've said before, Tyson Bagent out of Chicago Bears. He's their number 2. They've got their number 1 now. He's a young man I think could be a starter in the NFL, a solid starter in the right situation. That's a guy I would look at. Malik Willis come in and I think won 3 games for the Green Bay Packers last year when Love went down. Wasn't ready when he come in the NFL, not even close, out of Liberty, which, makes sense. But since that time, he has progressed. Was not a bad Titan state, but he went to the Packers last year, and he looked much, much better. I have the people on here saying Joe Milton, who's an incredibly talented kid out of Tennessee, that was a rookie with the Patriots last year. These are all guys that have talent. Now, of course, Bagent has started like 8 games. And then Willis has started 6 or 7 or 8 over, with 2 different franchises. I would like to see that first. Then in the draft, pick you up a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, like a Brady Cook or Tyler Shucks out of Louisville. He's an older rookie, but he's got a great arm to be a backup. And then if you need that 3rd quarterback, pick up whoever. You can bring back Allen from last year, Kyle Allen. But use this draft and the rest of your free agency money to build this team. Because finding your quarterback this year, the chances are minuscule now.
No, I agree with you. And then you also lost your 2nd round pick. So, are you going to really emphasize quarterback in this draft, 1st or 3rd when you've already lost your 2nd? I mean, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I'm saying more the 4th. That's why the guys I mentioned will probably be there in the 4th.
I don't know. Tyler Shock is going up on the rankings because of his his combine, his size, weight, his mobility. I don't know about Joe Milton. I don't think he was very accurate. If there's a quarterback that's out there that's a backup that maybe I might be interesting, there was a what's his name, Hookerson, a Detroit Lions backup for Goff. Played in Tennessee, I believe. Had like a leg injury when he was coming in, or else he would have been a high draft pick. Oh gosh, I can't remember his first. Maybe it's TJ. I'm probably mixing that up with TJ Henderson, but there was a guy backup for Jared Goff. But I think that the Steelers are going to end up, because if they were to go with like what you just mentioned right now, with Tyler Shock, Hooker, yes, Hooker. Why am I saying Hookerson? Yes, Hooker. Yeah. I don't think like, for instance, the Joe Miltons or the guys that you mentioned that were speedy are going to pair up with a Tyler Shock or some of these other guys that you were mentioning, Jackson Dart out of the draft. I don't think they're the same type of quarterback. I think you're looking at a situation where you're going to have to develop 2 different offenses. And that was something that Art Rooney said that they wanted to get away from. Yes, Don Hooker. There we go. Hendon Hooker. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Wes.
No, I didn't say Dart or Sanders because, again, that's a mobile guys. Those are mobile guys. Brady Cook, Shucks, he's not all that mobile. There's some guys that are not, they're more your prototypical passers, pocket passers. And the guys I mentioned, now Malik Willis can move. And Bagent is not a stationary target. He's not a big scrambler, but, he moves decent. So some of the, I agree. You don't want 2 different styles of quarterback because that could cause a problem. But, Big G says Hendon Hooker.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly the guy that I was referencing. He was supposed to be. He was a very accurate guy in Tennessee. He's coming out, and I think he had some sort of knee injury, and so he fell in the draft. He ended up getting picked up by the Lions. That was the same time that they did the trade for Goff, and I don't know if the expectations for Goff were as high as what he did. He did what his expectations were. I think Hooker was a guy that perhaps was somebody that the Lions were at the time they drafted and may have been looking at him for the future. I mean, that might be a guy that you might want to draft.
Goff is a great quarterback on schedule. He's a structured quarterback. If everything goes according to plan, he's brilliant. He makes the right reads. He's accurate. But when the play falls apart or it doesn't go as, scripted, then he doesn't have any creativity, off platform. Right. And that could be why that he will be replaced in Detroit before he has a chance to win, because that is a very good franchise. But I do think his limitations show up in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so the options are just thin, man. I mean, I think that
paper,
how would you feel about a return of the legend, Mason Rudolph, the guy?
I'm telling you, whatever it makes sense that you could still be competitive, but build the roster and then, reapproach this situation next year at quarterback, because I'm telling you, I don't see the answer out there long term. Now, you can throw a few darts, but when I say Bajan, I really believe he can be an answer there.
Yeah.
Now, would he be the long term answer? I don't know, but it's just not out there. The only guy I thought that could be a semi answer, but it still was a big question mark, was Fields. Well, now there's just nobody left.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever the answer that was going to be there. Whoever the Steelers were going to have as quarterback this upcoming year was going to be a high risk or low risk, probably low reward type of guys. They're not investing a lot, not a lot of time. It really does seem like their eyes as far as the franchise quarterback for the long term is probably still performing in college right now. This is somebody they're going to draft either this year or next year. A lot of folks are hoping that it's next year. I'm being one of them. I don't really see this draft as being a strong one. Now, I'm not opposed to the Steelers drafting a quarterback if it's in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, somebody that you're not expecting to be the future or the franchise. Somebody that can be somebody that you can develop. And then maybe perhaps if you find yourself in a situation where you have the opportunity to grab that franchise guy, maybe in the next draft or so, you can do so. But let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, when we get back, we'll talk more about this conversation. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, and we're back. Welcome back to the Hangover. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, StillCurrentNetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage, where you can check out all the breaking news, including the one that just broke a little while ago, Najee Harris to the Chargers for 1 year, $9.25 million. Congratulations to Najee. He's getting a little bag there, gets to go home to California and play in a little bit warmer weather. Congratulations. But make sure you go and check out StillCurrentNetwork.com so you can make sure you see all breaking news. And with that being said, let's get back into the conversation. There's one quarterback now that I think about, I want to get your opinion on. It's been a couple of years since he suited up, but he did put on a helmet and spoke out there that he would come back. And that is one Big Ben Roethlisberger. I'd be open to it. I'd be very open to it. I mean, with the offensive line coming around, these big receivers, that's always something that he's wanted. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Big Ben's unretiring to come back for one more year to pick up number 7.
My all-time favorite player. I love Big Ben. It's done. It's done. It's done. Rodgers can still sling it towards the end. The arm, it's like a puncher in boxing. You still have the power, but you lose the arm speed, the punch speed. And that's Ben didn't have it anymore. He walked away at the right time. Enjoy your retirement. I think it was funny. He was making a joke. But that get anybody excited. See him bring DK Metcalf, which is a physical marvel. The dude's a freak. Mm-hmm. You envision yourself throwing balls to that guy. But I really value that he does stay current and in touch with things going on around Pittsburgh and the Steelers, and I thought it was really funny. And I wish, man, he was about 10 years younger, and I'd be trying to reserve some Super Bowl tickets.
Oh man, me too. Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I thought it was funny. He was clearly joking. You could tell in his tone and things of that nature. And he came out on Pat McAfee earlier today, and he mentioned there that his arm, it's not there. He couldn't overthrow his oldest son, and so but man, just kind of thinking this offense that they have at this point, the offensive line, I know there's a question mark in the interior, with the guard position. McCormick, is he going to take another step forward? Does he need to be replaced? Broderick Jones, is he going to be able to be what, everybody expected him to be coming out of the draft in his normal natural position on the left side? Fautano, is he going to be back from the injury? A lot of question marks, but a lot of high expectations, in my opinion. And those expectations are that they're going to be able to protect whoever's back there. Man, it would be exciting to see him, but no, I don't think he's going to be back. But yesterday's news, I know we talked briefly on it. The Steelers trade a second-round pick for DK Metcalf. What do you think about the compensation of the trade? A second-round pick. Do you think that was high? Do you think it was a steal? How do you feel about just the comp that they got for the player?
Well, they asked at first for a first and a third.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to sign him a contract.
Yeah.
So to get him for a second, I felt much better about the draft capital. And then the way they done it, they saved some money in the first year because, to keep so they can sign more players and build the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And a 5-year deal, he should be around as they're trying to complete this rebuild. And because it might take a year or two to find the quarterback that will be able to get him the ball. So I would rather have him than Cook.
Yeah.
I'd rather have him than Samuel. I'd rather have him than Cup. I'd rather, so all the guys that they talked about last year, I would rather have Metcalf. So I'm happy. They had to get more weapons, more explosiveness, somebody that can really influence and dictate and dominate. And I think they got that in Metcalf.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about the player. The second round pick, as you mentioned, what they were asking for, I thought that was adequate. The payday, $150 million, I thought, that's unsteeler like. Initially I was a little bit grounded by it because it's not something that I'd expect for the Steelers to go out and do for a player that is not already part of the organization. This is a guy from the outside being brought in. I didn't expect it, but today's market is what today's market is, especially in that room. And it's, you have to pay those players for that, for a reason. The Steelers didn't have that wide receiver one quality last year. And I know Pickens, he's got the potential, but he doesn't have the effort playing in, play out. Even when the ball's not going to him, he doesn't have it. And when you look at a guy like DK Metcalf, that's the one thing that pops off the screen. And the one play that I think is the ultimate effort play is when he chased down Budda Baker on that interception. I mean, he could have given up. He could not cared. He chased him down, ran him down, and got him. And so you're not going to see those effort issues, in my opinion, when it comes to Metcalf. And a physical guy, big guy. I mean,
oh Lord,
you have probably a basketball team out there, and then Calvin Austin out there.
He's the point.
Lost.
He's the point guard.
He's the point guard, and he's getting lost back there. And with that speed, I mean, they have the potential to have a very dynamic offense. But the Steelers now need to utilize their players and maybe perhaps lean more towards the pass. Do you think that's possible in an Arthur Smith offense, that this be more pass happy than a run it down your throat?
Well, I'm real anxious to see. We've talked that they need defensive tackle. They're talking about getting Slay from the Eagles. And so they're going to try the formula, getting an old guy like they did with Patterson, and hope that he has something left. Peterson, and hope that he has something left. So, I mean, I'm counting more on Porter and Trice, and hopefully Slay can offer him, experience and leadership. But they need the defensive line, but they really had to focus a lot on offense. If they can bring in, now I'm telling you, the Steelers would have no trouble sliding Fautanu into guard.
Mm-hmm.
If one of these offensive tackles or fall to them. Like I love Milam from West Virginia. I'm just telling you. Who can also play guard. So they might be more comfortable leaving Falatana at right tackle and putting Milam in at right guard. But they really still have question marks there. But I expect this line, if healthy, just with the influx of talent and put Jones where he's supposed to be improved. If that happens, with the whatever additions they make at running back, which they have to do, the rumor is they like that backup Gainwell. I think Kenneth Gainwell, ain't it, from the Eagles?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the rumor is they like him in free agency. So if you had Warren, you have Gainwell, and you draft one of these kids we talked about, you have a totally revamped running back room with more speed and ability to play the outside zone effectively. That will change everything. It'll make it easier on the line. It'll open up the passing game and the play action. So I'm anxious to see what they're going to do to finalize that offensive line.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the biggest thing though is going to be Seumalo coming back healthy. He had that pec injury last year, and I think that really did harp him. Yeah, he wasn't the same. So him having an off season and an ability to get healthy off of that, I think that's going to be huge. The running back position, if they go out there, I think they're going to need to go and get somebody in free agency. Now that you've lost your second round pick, I mean, I doubt they're going to go get Gentry in the first. I doubt he'll be there, out of Boise in the draft. And so,
but wouldn't that be something?
That would.
I mean, you're talking about rolling the dice, man. I mean, you're going for the top guy.
Yeah, I mean, and you really, he's a home run hitter. He's a home run hitter. You don't have to worry about anything. He's a home run hitter. That's the kind of guy that you would be able to. I mean, the offense, I mean, it's just really at this point missing the quarterback. I mean, I think that's what everybody's been saying. If the Steelers can get that running back, and I know they haven't got him yet or whatnot, but if they go and get a running back like a Gentry, or they go and answer in that position, they end up keeping George Pickens this year. I mean, they have a shot at a really potent offense here. And
franchise tag him next year, and then find your replacement for him next year.
That's what I was thinking. I'll be 110% honest with you. I was like, why not just franchise him next year? He's going to get paid. He's going to get the money. He may be a little bit this and that, but if he wants a bigger paycheck, he's going to have to fall in line. I mean, that's just going to be the end of it. Because if George Pickens continues to act like a fool, that's more money off of his plate. You know what I'm saying? And so at a certain point, I think he's going to understand that. I think he needs to understand that this money that DK Metcalf got is probably destined for him had he not had the antics last season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And so
I agree.
Yeah. Hopefully he's on the team. Do you think he's going to stay? Do you think the Steelers shop him? Because that's the rumor right now. That's the debate. Is he staying or is he going?
I think that if you get a great offer, you would have to consider it.
Yes.
Where you could get a top replacement in the draft, pick up another, experienced free agent. But unless that happens, and I don't know if it will because of the attitude problems, then I would go ahead and keep him. And there's different receivers in this class that I like. And just totally revamp that room, new running backs, and get you a functional quarterback. You ain't going to have the answer. Get you a functional guy. Don't pay Rodgers $30-some million. I mean, just don't do it. That's a Band-Aid, on the Titanic. Don't do that. Just play this year. Let these young guys improve. Let them grow and gel, and get your quarterback next year.
But Aaron Rodgers was cut, right? Like he's being cut. Isn't that correct? His contract didn't end.
I don't know if he has yet or not.
Because here's the thing: is his contract going to be one of those like Russell Wilson, where the Jets are going to be paying some of it if a team picks him up since they didn't trade him?
I don't think his was all guaranteed, like Wilson's. I don't think. But I think you could get Rodgers cheaper but I still think it's going to be in the 30s. I mean, just based on what he's done and what the rumors are.
Right. Yeah, no, I because he had 2 years left on his contract with the Jets. He had 2025 and 2026. Actually, he had quite a few more years, but after 25, everything was voided. And so the Jets were going to pay him a lot of money after he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it from according to Sport Track, it is a 2025 was a base salary of 2.5 million, a signing bonus of 7 million, an option of 14, and a cap hit of 23.5. I don't know what any of that means and what or how much. Just letting you guys know that's what it is. And let's see, 75 million was guaranteed out of it was 112 million. And so yeah, I would probably suppose that a lot of that has already been paid out in the first 2 years of that 75 million. So, the Steelers will probably get a little bit of I think they probably owe him a little bit more, but it's not going to be a huge amount. It's not going to be like Russ where it's only $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I just think that my whole thing is building for the future and being a Super Bowl contender. And I just don't think Rodgers has had so many opportunities where they were the best team, had the best record in the NFC from the weakest division at that time. The Detroit Lions were a joke. Minnesota really wasn't doing anything. So it was pretty much Green Bay, the class of that division. Yeah. Every year. So he went like 13 and 4 every year, or 13-3, and had the number 1 seed, and he won 1 Super Bowl. Made it to 1 Super Bowl. I don't see him coming to Pittsburgh and getting him to a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I would still keep the money. You don't have to spend the money, but I'd like them to spend the free agency money on young developmental talent, free agents, and have this team ready when you do find your quarterback.
Yeah. We have a super chat. Danny Little John comes in saying Harris signs with the Chargers. 199 super chat. Thank you so much, Danny. Harris being gone, that's a little bit bittersweet. I liked him. I liked him as a person. I liked him as a player, as a person. Thought he was hilarious. His interview with the Spanish interviewee, that was classic. I have a jersey of his. My wife has 2 jerseys. I'm sad to see him go, but when it comes to production on the field, at the end of the day, I was really ready to see just a lot of Jaylen Warren and somebody else. I just felt that Najee's game is something that is not what the Steelers do or do well, at least. And that pitch option or that pitch to him that caused the Philadelphia game where he fumbled it, and also a lot of other games where he just couldn't even get back to the line of scrimmage. Just the multiple times that they did that play, it just wasn't a fit for him.
I want to mention something about Harris. Harris is a good dude. He needs to be in the right kind of offense, a power offense. Work between the tackles. He cannot move laterally. He does not have speed at all. I read where somebody said that he ran a 4.41. I said, you show me that. It never happened. There's no way that man runs a 4.41. A 4.61 maybe, but not a 4.41. And I looked everywhere I could look, and he never ran the 40 prior to being drafted. There was an injury concern, and so he never ran it. How can you draft a running back in the first round and never see him run a 40-yard dash? That would be like watching a pitcher and you never see him even throw, bat practice or have a simulated game. I mean, he never ran the 40. And you brought in a guy in the first round that should have been a second or third round value. Mm-hmm. People talk about how they reached for Terrell Edmonds, and they did. But it was worse with Harris. And, I mean, no running back that slow that I could ever think of was drafted in the first round. I mean, and that's back when they was power games, back in the 70s and 80s. It reminded you of when Richardson went in the first round back with the Browns, and he was another Alabama product. I'm just saying, it's a shame that he ended up being more like Richardson and less like Derrick Henry.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And that's who I was going to bring up. I was like, I think Richardson's probably the comp, when it comes to the comparison between who he compares to most. Some people are asking about Cordell Patterson. He's still on the team. He's still on the team right now. I think he's going to end up getting cut. I think the Steelers will save themselves a little bit of money. And it says here potential out 2025 1 year $3.2 million $950,000 dead cap. So
why haven't they already done it?
I have no idea.
I mean, the guy was like way overweight last year and lost any burst that he ever had.
Yeah.
And he's old. I mean, that experiment's over.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would definitely hope so. Overall, I mean, like I said, we said earlier, it was not a very productive day. The Steelers didn't really do much themselves. There was a lot of other news, though, around players that were former Steelers. The big news is a former Steelers quarterback coming back to the AFC North.
Yep.
Kenny Pickett traded to the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson had a setback. And so I'm expecting Kenny Pickett to be the week 1 starter unless they go out there and draft the quarterback in the first round. Then maybe perhaps that's not the case. But as of right now, I think he's going to be the week 1 starter. What are your feelings about Kenny Pickett making his way back to the North?
Well, I mean, I have nothing against Pickett, as you know.
Right.
I feel sorry for him that he ended up in Cleveland. I mean, anywhere else, back up Joe Burrow in Cincinnati or anywhere else. I was happy for him when he was with the Eagles and he got to win a Super Bowl. But to have to go to Cleveland, that's just cruel and unusual punishment. And as much as he, I'd like to see him have success, because anybody that had to play under Matt Canada, I feel sorry for him. Had to go to Cleveland's like going to Siberia.
I think it's fitting. I mean, it's football karma. He's going to end up going around. He was a guy that was, in my opinion, he whined. He was a crybaby when Mason Rudolph was in there, and I just, he got drafted by the Steelers, and the Steelers reached for him. They shouldn't have, but they did. They reached for him.
That's Culver special.
It sure
Think
is.
about it. Harris, Pickett, Harris and Freiermuth when he could have had Creed Humphrey, Pickett, Terrell Edmonds. I mean, his last drafts were hideous.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So yeah, I mean, nothing against him personally or anything like that, but it didn't seem right the way he left. It seemed like he left on a bad note, and it's just fitting, him to go to Cleveland. Now he's going to play the Steelers twice a year. We all talked. I talked a lot of smack. I ain't gonna lie. I said a lot of things. So the Steelers are going to see him. I hope the Steelers can back up everything I was saying. I don't have any doubt, though. I don't have any doubt. I think that I don't have the most confidence in his ability in windy and colder venues. I really don't. I thought that he that's where he lacked, was once it got colder, once the wind started picking up, and out there in Cleveland, it's a windy location, so it'll be interesting to see how he does.
Not a quarterback paradise, no, not at all.
No, he can add his name to the list of that jersey.
Well, think about, Myles Garrett says one thing, Myles Garrett says another thing, and then Myles Garrett signs the biggest contract not quarterback in the league.
Yep.
It sets this market. So everybody's like, well, it's the Browns being the Browns. But the problem is now Steeler fans are already buying into this nonsense. And they're like, well, we got to make TJ Watt higher paid than Myles Garrett. That's a mistake.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is younger He's still closer to his prime. He was more dominant at times last year, whereas Watt faded, was not used correctly in the Steelers system. He would not move around. I don't even know if Terrell Austin knows how to use him and move him around. And he's older, like his brother. When his brother's game started to fall apart because his health fell apart, you cannot pay TJ Watt just to say, well, we're matching and make him higher paid than what the Browns made Garrett. Because that contract for Garrett is crazy. I mean, when the Browns signed Watson to a guaranteed contract, the biggest in history, I said it was the dumbest contract I ever seen in sports. So don't emulate the Browns, whatever you do. Focus on building this roster with young talent. Don't throw a regular contract at TJ Watt when he's past his prime.
Well, TJ right now is making $28 million a year. Garrett, I think he signed for 40. There's quite a few there. Crosby that are in the upper 30 million, 38 million, 37 million. It's up there. It's up there. You think the Steelers bite on it? You think he's going into his last season at 28 million?
I mean, I would try to do something that would, because they got some money.
They do.
And I would try to do something to show the respect for what he's done for the organization. Maybe give him something short term where you could get out. Like Cameron Hayward's contract, the Steelers could get out this year and it not be as big a hit. You see what I'm saying? Kind of give yourself an out if age does catch up or injuries. But maybe make him $35 million, to give him a raise and show, but paying him over $40 million a year, he's not there no more.
Yeah.
And the too big it's 50-50 next year if he's better or if it's going to be more of the same. Because he was wore down, wore out. It did not look like the same player at all at the end of last year. Now, I know the talent got better, the teams they played. But again, I keep saying it. It's his second playoff game where he had no statistics. That's where legends are made in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the Steelers don't have any of them guys currently on the roster.
So if they don't come to a number, do you think any chances you think he gets dealt as far or they pick up the phone on a trade for TJ?
Well, but when they said the Bears were interested in Tomlin, because I know what they'd had to give up to get him, I said, yes, let's start rebuilding.
Yeah.
Let's start it now. That's like the Herschel Walker deal when Dallas made it. That turned that whole franchise around under Jimmy Johnson. Same thing. I would say trade Tomlin. Well, now we're past that. Well, now you got, what's your big piece? It's TJ Watt. If the offer was there to really change the franchise, give TJ a chance to win a championship. Because the guy's a Hall of Famer, no doubt, but he don't have the ring. He don't have the trophy. And if he can help the Steelers rebuild and increase their talent, I'd say you got to consider it.
Yeah, I think you pick up the phone, But then again, I also don't think you don't do the moves that you've made. Well, you still don't have the quarterback position. I mean, that's the big one.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't promise it's a player like TJ or Cam that, hey, we're going all in. We're gonna try to get number 7 here, and have such a question mark in that big position. Think
about it, kid. Why have the highest paid or even top 3 highest paid player at any position when it leaves you holes everywhere else, and you're not a championship caliber team, and you don't even have your franchise quarterback, which you really got to have? Look at the Final 4 teams in the playoffs. Look at the Final 8 teams in the playoffs. You got to have that answer at quarterback. If you don't, you're not going to be in the tourney, baby. You're not going to have a chance to win it.
Yeah.
So, it makes no sense. And that's what I'm saying. Show him respect, give him a raise, but don't try to get into a bidding or a Pinson contest where we're going to pay more than Garrett. That makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't know. I wouldn't. think that the Steelers are going to go in there and go all out like that and give him more than Garrett. Maybe the illusion of it, with void years and a bunch of other things, that it might appear that it's 40 million or whatever, but in reality it's not. But that's going to be huge because the record is what the record is with the Steelers playing without TJ, and he's a huge component to why the Pittsburgh Steelers have won. I know a lot of folks are saying we know Herbig, he could be the replacement. Herbig doesn't fill those shoes quite the same.
And he's too little to be your full time. He don't set a good edge because he's small.
Exactly, and so teams will just run that direction all day and night, and force him to stop it. And even if he starts getting all right at it, they're going to still continue until he can really stop it. And so, I just, it's a tough place to be in, man, because, TJ Watt is an iconic player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been the heart and soul of the team for so long. And, I'd hate to see him in a different colored uniform. You know what I mean?
I don't want to see it either, guys. I grew up in an era, being an old timer, that I got to watch my guys because it wasn't free agency, and guys would get drafted by a team and retire with that team. And plenty of the Steel Curtain guys did that. And it broke my heart to see Mike Webster in a Chiefs uniform, to see Greg Lloyd in a Panthers uniform, to see guys that I really loved and watched them play for other teams. But the modern NFL, with what we've seen all day today, it's all about free agency. It's all about making shrewd moves for the future, thinking ahead, looking big picture. You can't have all these legacy guys anymore. Again, the Patriots were the dominant team during Belichick and Brady's tenure. And if you talk to Patriots fans and you say, who's on your Mount Rushmore? They'll mention Belichick and they'll mention Brady. Some will mention Gronk, maybe Richard Seymour. But there's not a lot of guys because there was so many guys that went through. And when they got to a certain point, guess what happened? They moved them. Chandler Jones was the best pass rush and defensive end in the NFL for the Patriots. And he wanted too much money. What did Belichick do? He traded to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Because what I'm saying is they wasn't worried about legacy. You're retiring as a Patriot. They wanted to keep winning, and they did. So it's a different – you have to think differently now. And even though I'd hate to see TJ somewhere else, I want to see the guy win a Super Bowl because let me tell you, they throw that out there when they start voting on stuff.
They definitely do.
When you get in the Hall of Fame and all that, and if you don't have a title, you don't want to be Dan Marino, one of the greatest ever, but he never won it. And that's all people talk about.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's becoming a thing. People are noticing the statistics when it comes to, or the lack thereof, when it comes to TJ Watt and playoffs. And just in general, this team is becoming, or TJ Watt and this defense has become the 90s, a team that made it to the championship, that was worthy of a ring and just never got there. And I'm talking about this going all the way back to like 2015, 2014, when the Steelers had the Killer Bees. They had a window. And they should have jumped through it. And now we have to go through a new one.
One more thing. TJ Watt, and it's not his fault, but a franchise cannot be that dependent on one player. It has to be scheme. And you say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. The Detroit Lions lost their best defensive player early in the season last year and made it, could have made it to the NFC Championship game. But they had so many injuries. But they lost T.J. Hutchinson, right? Is that I think that's his name. Yeah. Best young defensive end in football. He's great. He was their whole pass rush. They lost him, and they still found a way to win. It has to be the whole team. It has to be schematics, not just one player. That showed how that Tomlin relies on his superstars. He's over-reliant, and if they don't make the big plays at the end, the Steelers lose, just like they did at the end of last year.
Yeah, you're 100% right there. Claude Bishop comes with a $5 super chat, and this is a good way to run out the show with a RIP to Craig Wolfley. He'll definitely be missed. I 100% agree with that. It was a sad way to start the morning. Completely unexpected. Had no idea that he was even under the weather, and he passed away this morning. I think he was 66.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I was reading. He found out he had cancer. I don't know what kind.
Correct.
And then passed this morning, I think. He was a West Virginia guy in my heart. I got to watch talking about it, but Daryl really played for the Mountaineers, and that's his brother, and has been involved in the Mountaineer program for years. And Craig was in West Virginia a lot. He's an ex-Stiller. The culture's dying, Daniel. I mean, Touch Yokin, a fine man of faith, and we lost him. And then we have one of his best friends, Wolf, and Wolf was just another man of faith, just a wonderful person. Anybody that I've ever known, and he has commented on my articles and in my podcast, and he was always supportive. And the dude is a legend. Just a down to earth guy. You just want to sit down and get a bite to eat with and talk. And he was just that guy. People don't know he competed in the strongman, world's strongest man competition. I mean, the guy was a brute, but he was a gentle guy, gentle giant, heart bigger than him. And I woke up to that this morning. I was very sad. But then again, now he's back with Touch, and our loss is heaven's gain. And my thoughts and prayers go out to his family, a beautiful family, and he will be sorely missed. But we got to value these guys because the culture is, it's not the same as it used to be. And these guys pass that culture along. They talk to the young guys at camp. And, that's a lot of these guys, their first experience to the Steelers culture was from Touch and from Wolf. So it was really sad. And, but he lived a wonderful life. And I think he was just, he's a legend in my opinion.
Yes, sir. He was. Him and Tunch will be calling down from upstairs on Sunday.
Maybe they can help us find a quarterback.
Hopefully so. Hopefully they'll give us a little bit of that little bit miracles on Sundays. Yep. But yes, 100% rest in peace. Another great Steeler gone much too soon. Much too soon. But thank you guys. I want to say thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Please like, subscribe, follow, share. Everything that goes on in between. We'd appreciate that, getting this out to everybody, your friends and family members that are Steeler fans. We'd appreciate that. Let's grow the channel. With that being said, Shannon, take us out, my man.